Okay, this is a review for exam 3 for Intro to Philosophy, which is on, let's see, Descartes and some proofs for the existence of God. Question, these are in no random order, just out of order because they're randomized. The cosmological argument for God's existence ultimately argues that there must be an explanation for the universe. That one seems pretty straightforward. Remember, cosmos from the Greek means world, and so you're arguing from the world to what caused the world, or what's the reason for the world existing, right? And of course, the argument is God created the world. The world doesn't explain itself. Okay. Explain Descartes' argument for the existence of himself, and thus what he means by cogito ergo sum. There, I'm just looking for map out the line of argumentation about what is cogito ergo sum. Remember, this isn't the full explanation, of course, but Descartes' doubting. He's looking for a first principle of philosophy. He doubts the external world. He doubts his body. He tries to doubt himself, but he realizes he can't do that because to doubt himself, he has to be presupposed in the activity of doubting. Okay. Another question: true or false? Descartes thought science was fake news. Okay. The moral argument for God's existence argues that God must exist, since if God does not exist, then objective moral values and duties would not exist. However, since objective moral values and duties do exist, God therefore must exist to ground and explain them. That seems pretty straightforward, right? What's the explanation for morality, right? Why do they exist? Are they objective? Remember, this is an argument Nietzsche would say, well, of course, morality doesn't exist, so no problem there. But if you believe they do exist, then God must be the explanation. Okay. In your opinion, what is the best argument for or against the existence of God? Please explain in detail what the argument is and why or why not you agree or disagree. That is, so if you're convinced by a particular argument, say yes. If you find none of them convincing, say which one. And if you find, which argument you find convincing, you can say what that is and why, and explain what that is. If you don't find any, you can say that too, and you can explain. I'm looking for some philosophical reflection there. The proof of the existence of God from mathematics argues that since mathematics works, the world must be mathematical, and thus mathematical objects, for example, numbers, must be real. But if numbers are real, then metaphysics is real, and thus the mind or reason it must exist, which is the argument for theism in general. This is similar to what we talked about with Plato and Nietzsche. Okay. Then I have just an open-ended essay question. Why should one study philosophy in your opinion? What is its value, if any? So there I'm looking for just a little reflection. Okay. Cogito ergo sum, true or false, means that Descartes cannot prove that he exists. Okay, cannot prove that he exists. Aquinas, strictly speaking, does not think we can prove God's existence, since to prove means ultimately only what can be empirically proven or observed. So there you want to go to the video on what the different kinds of proofs are for Aquinas. Descartes argues that since he is doubting, he is thinking, and therefore he must exist in order to doubt and think, since his I must precede all his thoughts and therefore doubts. Okay. I think that one is grammatically off. I better go back and change that, whatever I just read. It should say, Descartes argues that since he is doubting, he is thinking, he must therefore exist in order to doubt and think, since his I must precede all his thoughts and therefore doubts. Descartes does not think that one can prove the existence of God. The last two, they seem kind of pretty straightforward here. So does Descartes think he can prove the existence of God? Descartes' ontological argument argues that the existence of God is possible to doubt without leading to contradiction and absurdity, since God is an absolutely necessary being. There you have to go to that question on whether or not it's actually possible to doubt the existence of God. Hint, there's a relationship between the cogito and that argument, the ontological argument. Okay. In order to combat the possibility of nihilism in the modern scientific worldview, Descartes, in the scientific spirit, employs methodological doubt so as to arrive at an absolutely unshakable and certain first principle philosophy, which ipso facto must be indubitable, which in itself, or by the very fact, must be unable to be doubted. That, again, seems pretty straightforward here. This quiz is, I'm noticing, a lot easier than I intended. The resulting nihilism of the modern scientific worldview lies in the eradication, that is, elimination, of teleology and purpose in favor of mechanism, or the mechanistic worldview, without any value. Again, seems straightforward.